Greetings, Holy One. Namaste, Namaskaram. I'm sharing with you a bit of spiritual technology in the form of actionable intelligence. And this is a testimony from a young person who was a Christian missionary at one point in their life. They have since evolved beyond dualism into the fifth dimension as a Homo angelicus. However, this paragraph that I'm sharing is their testimony from, I guess, at a certain point in their spiritual journey, spiritual evolution, which was fundamentalist Christianity. And in this case, they um, were going to India and they were going to convert all of these evil Hindus to Christianity. And which, by the way, the term Hindu is historically offensive. It has some connotations with the British Empire and all that. And it is my understanding that the more proper term is Vedic. So instead of saying a Hindu religion, we would say a Vedic religion or a Vedic spiritual technology. Please go on, hit the subscribe button and leave this video a thumbs up. That's some great intelligence so far. Anywho, so this is a testimony. It is a, to use a technical term within from the infinite dimensions of the God force. It is a metanoetic reversal. It tracks the evolution of consciousness from the rigid exclusionary dualism of spiritual warfare to a pluralistic experiential synthesis. Now, this is a roadmap. This is a decolonization of the soul. This is a freeing of lower dimensional imprisonment of a spiritual, or rather, not spiritual, but a religious matrix. Many people, wide path Christians, are still prisoners of this religious matrix. And if you're not a prisoner of the religious matrix, there are other nuances of that matrix which have imprisoned the vast majority of people who are entranced right now with the God of this world, which is Ha-Satan, which is the adversary. Satan is a Hebrew word that means adversary, which in turn has evolved from the Sumerian word Satan, which means planetary administrator. Now, this is nothing to get all upset and worked over about because this is the way that it is. This is the divine plan. This is the crucible for evolution. Each person to free themselves through their own devices from this matrix. And in this case, this person underwent what is a technical phrase as decolonization of the soul. So this is an anatomy of conversion and deconversion. This person's journey follows a symmetrical arc that mirrors the very structures they sought to impose. They went over to India from America as an spiritual invader. In their minds, they were going to conquer these evil Hindus with their missionary ego. And that missionary ego doesn't stop there because it is a quality of consciousness that knows no satiation. Okay? Because once they have conquered a foreign adversary, they turn it among the other denominations and it never ends. It is a perpetual field of spiritual warfare, which is really just religious ego. But this subject operated under the colonial soteriology, the belief that foreign gods are demons. In Greek, the word is demions. And that indigenous cultures are enslaved. So this person, I didn't share the whole testimony. I was just sharing the initial part of it. But a critical turning point was the realization that their Christian mysticism was merely hyped up emotional states or charismatic preaching rather than direct gnosis. Gnosis is a Greek word. It means knowledge, but it is a special type of knowledge. So, but this is an experience of decolonization of the soul, of freeing the soul, which is an eternal, energetic aspect of who you really are. You're not this flesh puppet genetic vehicle. But this testimony identifies three ways to interpret the gods that align with a synthetic worldview, a healthy worldview. We have the ontological interpretation of actual beings existing as sonic vibrations in subtle realms. We have the macro psychic aspects of a single cosmic consciousness, emanations. And we have the archetypical collective symbols generated by the human psyche. But based on this intelligence, the Umbanda New Elohim Ashram has deciphered the following strategic integrations. The critique of tribal idolatry. The testimony reveals that if a deity demands the colonial suppression of other spiritualities, that deity functions as an idol, meaning the jealous God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, demands colonial suppression of other spiritual realities. He is an idol. Christians and the vast majority of people involved in the External Savior program are worshiping an idol. True divinity is not a competitor. It is the ground of being. Any God that fears the devas is a limited ego projection. So this is a type of affirmative theology. This aligns with the mission of synthesis, moving from Christ monism, Jesus idolatry, to Christ pantheism, the universal presence of the all-creating God. This is an example of healing versus repression. This subject found that while their initial religion fostered fear, low self-esteem, and sexual repression, which is the experience of fundamentalist Christians, they have experienced vast religious trauma. But this missionary found that the encounters with the foreign gods provided healing energies. So this is the power of spiritual practice, and the ultimate validation is pragmatic truth. And this testimony validates the ashram of Umbanda that the road to Damascus can lead away from institutional exclusivity and toward the radiant pluralism of the new Elohim. The gods did not just find this person, they reclaimed a fragment of the divine synthesis that had been labeled darkness. And ultimately, this is the journey of all of us as we free ourselves from the various nuances, the various layers of the prison of this matrix, and step into the experience of the pure Atman. This is a Vedic term, Atman. It means your eternal energetic aspect, your eternal energetic awareness, which is what you truly are at your core. And the more that you're able to touch that core, the more stable you operate, the less distractions, the less shackles you have upon your awareness, and the greater will be your journey through this tribulation quarter. That is, you can see the energies beginning, but it will begin hot and heavy in 2027. And this tribulation corridor is meant to reclaim fragments of the divine synthesis that had been labeled darkness. All of those still living in darkness, the more that they can operate, open up their frequency, they will be reclaimed by the divine. So please, it is my intention that you too are reclaimed by the divine that is within you. Namaste, namaskaram.